Test, 1, 2, 3, test. Welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, heroes and villains. I'm your host, Deshaun Fauntleroy. In today's episode, I'm joined by my co-host, Sugey Gomez. So we're having a conversation about what Sports Mastery is up to, what my training program, Pro Force Athletics, is up to, and where we're going into the future. So stay tuned as we drop right into this conversation. Peace and blessings. So what was on your mind to discuss today?
Ask you questions.
What you want to talk to me about?
What you're up to. Like, I figured, like, I was thinking, like, maybe, like, this time, like, I can, or ask you, like, the questions that I have put out, like, the 5 questions about, like, what are your new projects? Like, what inspired you to begin these new adventures? What are you learning currently with these new projects? Anything challenging? What's expected for next time? And then I thought maybe, like, next time we can talk about, like, my stuff that's coming up or something like that. So your, like, audience knows, like, what's happening in the sport world or psychology, and, like, me being a student. Because I'm sure some of them can relate with being a student or inspiring to do something later, whatever that is.
Yeah, and the experience of the whole online learning platform.
Yeah.
Because we've never been in this, I guess you could say, realm.
And that could be a whole topic too, because I'm doing the online and everything, like, now. And also experience with my professors too. That's a whole nother ball game too. Like, they're struggling. A lot of them are very old school. So. Okay.
Well, let's get to it. As they say, if it's going down, let's get it over with.
Yeah. Well, you'll have to start your show, right? I don't know if you will. Yeah. Yes. So this time I thought we can definitely pick your brain and see what is new, what's happening, so your audience know what what current projects and certain things you're up to. So I was wondering to hear what I presume there's some new projects that are down the pipeline for you that are exciting. I would love to hear what those are.
2 big things right offhand is we're currently working on the Pro Force app. I'm looking forward to that. So when things like this happen, or just hopefully nothing like this happens again in the future, but for my folks that are in Texas, Louisiana, my folks in New York that follow the podcast, now they can see our training methodology and not just see what we do on Instagram. They can learn the hows and why. So we'll have a video archive. We'll have video presentations. We'll have an audio archive, and then we'll have downloadable PDFs. That's where we're starting at right now. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm excited about it. It's a little challenging because I'm learning a whole new platform like I did with podcasting. But I think for me, I love challenges, and this is the perfect challenge for me right now.
Yeah, speaking about challenge, I think it's very telling with what's happening in the world everywhere. Given this new adventure or this new project that you're doing, what keeps you pushing through that challenge?
Well, what keeps me pushing through it is that I've been on a lot of Zoom webinar calls, and I've heightened my education, around training, recovery, and regeneration, and the general preparation for the athlete, because I think I've invested in like 7 different webinar calls from like 3 to 4 different coaches. So, I like to think that if they can do it, I can do it. And it's been really educational. So when I see somebody else doing something, I say, maybe I can do this myself. And not in this is in a positive way, so like I'm fortunate enough to be around and connected to some good people across the country that, the things that they're presenting, it's not what you often find in the books or in the classic education system when it comes to sports performance or exercise kinesiology or applied kinesiology collegiate program.
So would you say it's a blend of experience and education that really helps stand out or really learn what endeavor you're trying to get into?
Yeah, it's definitely, because where I'm going, most of the time you're sitting in the classroom, you're reading a book, you're taking exams, but you don't know if the material that you're being taught really works until you get out into the field. And you could be teaching something based on the book. And what if you don't understand or have the social intuitiveness to know that this kid is an auditory learner, a visual learner, or a kinesthetic learner? So you don't know until you get out into the field, and you might try to teach something and you might not have the appropriate cues for that athlete, and they don't get it, and you think that it doesn't work. When in reality, you just had to show them a different way. Or they could have a hearing problem, they could have a vision problem, they could have a vestibular problem. See, these are some of the things that I'm working on right now, as far as our training has adjusted to where we're not training the muscle, we're not training sports performance, we're training human performance. And what that means is we're doing drills. It might look like what other people doing, but our cues are different, and the reactions and the things that I'm looking for are different. So we're training 3 areas now. We're training the central nervous system, we're training the visual system, and the vestibular system. And that is completely different when it comes to, it's not necessarily about sets and reps.
So I heard the getting to know like the individual, which reminds me with some of the stuff that I'm learning with school, building that rapport with that individual, whatever that is. Second, I heard like attuning, connecting to the person, like attuning to what intuitively, like what they're about, and seeing how they work in order to know what's really working. But the big picture, being out in the field, is really important. Blending those two when it comes to like the books versus being out in the field. Which reminds me, when I was in my internships that I've shared with you before, a lot of the stuff we talk about in the textbooks, and then when you're with the individual or the athlete, a whole nother ballgame comes through, especially with them being who they are and coming with them as human to human.
Yeah, because what's not in the books is chapters on social intelligence. What's not in the books is chapters on emotional intelligence. So you don't know, especially dealing with the female athlete, you don't know it. You gotta be able to build a rapport with her, the mom, the parents, and understand if this 14, 15-year-old girl is on her menstruation cycle. You got to be able to find out subtle things that could have happened when she was younger and might not have been productive with the man around. So you got to, you can inadvertently say something, raise your voice a certain way, and trigger something, and you not get the results that you want to see in the drill or the workout. And that's being perceptive right there. And you have to be willing and have the patience to get to know the individual and their parents from the first 10 minutes. And it's constant. You have to, because we change every day. Our cells change every day. Our thoughts change every day. How an athlete's feeling today, they might feel differently in 30 days because a lot can take place in 30 days. Like all of a sudden the gyms are shut down and we have to reconfigure the way we think. But, those that really are in the field, they know how to train. You can get the same results without the barbell. You can get the same results without the kettlebell. And these are facts.
Also, I heard you were talking about the female player and really getting to know her, the parents, and what they're doing. Reminds me of a lot of things that we talk about with school, like culture, and really getting to know the individual. Because maybe, like you said, maybe a male saying something or yelling something could be something so different when it comes to her culture, and how that can change the whole entire experience with her, with working with you. I think that plays a big part in us working with people and understanding them more, not just as an athlete, but as a person, and what their worldviews, their beliefs, and their behaviors, how that connects with what the work that you're doing.
Yes, because it's beyond sport, it's beyond game, it's beyond results. You're not going to get to that place where you think you can get in your head with an athlete until you take time to get to know him or her, and then get to know their parents or other relatives that might be bringing them to practices or trainings or the guardians. And until you get to that point, you're just taking a risk of not getting to the end goal. And that is having them he or she perform at an optimal level, or putting them in a position to where they can really exploit their genetics in terms of competition while they're young, and not look back 10 or 15 years later and have a sour taste in their mouth.
When it comes to like the projects and the app that you're working on, how do you see that like getting your athletes to like a higher level? Like, how do you see that playing out with working with them?
Well, it allows me to stay in contact with them more. And it also allows me to have presenters from around the world, because they can present and then they can send that to me, and then we can upload to the app. So now I can get more detailed information out to, the athlete, or the people that train with us, because there will be an online training program. Because some things you can do online. There's people out there that think that you can't, but this is a booming industry, and you can see how this is working like right now. Literally training is going on online right now. It might be different, but it puts a lot of ownership on the athlete. So you have to be direct, you have to be clear, you have to be able to explain, and you have to be able to give prime examples of what you want that athlete to do, and based on your system, have it laid out accordingly.
Do you have like an idea? I don't know if you can like help me like run through like, okay, so if I'm an athlete, I come into this app, like, is there going to be like, what would it look like? What do you envision how an athlete would be using this platform?
Well, part of what you see when you first land, you'll see an icon that has training videos, and then once you hit that icon, it's going to take you to the list. It might be plyometrics, it might be isometrics, it might be extreme isometrics. So you hit isometrics, then it might go to extreme isometrics, oscillating isometrics, reflexive firing isometrics. So we explain all of that, and I don't mean to talk scientific, but that's just where we're going. And we will have presentations, or there will be an intro, to each different section, so you understand the differences and the hows and whys, why you would do one over the other. And it'll be the same with the plyometrics, because ultimately, the kids that I work with, they're power athletes, so their intentions is to jump higher, jump farther, run faster, and just generally learn how to move better in space as far as being agile. So that means they could be track athletes, they could be football, basketball, baseball, soccer, where you have to sprint, and where speed is a premium.
Any challenge that you see your athletes having using this platform?
Not yet. I haven't got to that part yet.
Okay.
Our goal is to present things in a distinct and clear way, where everything is understandable. The only challenge would be distance. Like if you're in Florida, you can't train with me. If you're in Louisiana, you can't train with me, but you can get the next best thing. And then if you have competent people around you, they can just help facilitate the workout or film for you. And then you can send things back to us, so we can look and see that your form and technique is appropriate. And that might means if I'm asking you to do a split squat, and then the next layer might be an elevated split squat, and then the next layer after that, we might put a kettlebell in your hand for X amount of time. Can you get to what's called that critical joint configuration, like a 90-degree angle? So we get to talking about different things, like I said, critical joint configuration and prime anatomical position based on the movements that we want to do as it relates to sport. So we know that if you can get to the end range, you can do the whole movement when it comes to isometrics. So I don't need to beat you up with slow eccentrics and have you sore doing slow eccentric movements, when if you're playing soccer or football, you're sprinting. And that's where a lot of injuries come from, because kids are training slow eccentrics, like your typical squat, your typical heavy deadlift, but the game doesn't require that. The game is at top speed. So it's rapid and it's fast eccentrics. So that's how we train.
Because that's what you're trying to get your athletes to do. Like you say, you work with these power athletes, so you want to get them to be faster or whatever they're looking for, not necessarily the typical slow squat or the usual like gym thing that folks will do at the gym?
We run less. We have kids getting faster because we run less and we beat up the joints less. We just, when we do run, we place a heavy emphasis on form and technique and the force production going down. So everything that we're doing with our movements is putting them in a position, it's relative to running or sprinting in terms of being a lot of split stance movements and a lot of single leg movements.
That's exciting. I can already see this like kind of, happening also, because I've heard a little bit from you about what you're up to. It's pretty neat to see, like, and I'm a very visionary person, so I can already see like what is going to be happening. But in any case, is there going to be somewhere, I'm just curious, is there going to be somewhere where they can maybe, when they're training on their own with a platform, where they can send you like, hey, Deshawn, this is what I'm working on. Does it look well? Like, say they're in Florida and maybe they record themselves and send it over to you in that platform, or is that something completely out of the ballgame?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yes, they will. That's a very thought out question, because we'll have a social wall where you can post and talk in the social wall and post videos and post what you're doing and talk to other people within the app.
And is the goal so they train with you, see in this platform, and if they're local, then you can kind of build from what they've been working on in this platform?
Part of this will be a community. I mean, that we're creating our own community. So with me having an app, you've always heard of people, for whatever reason, sometimes it's plausible, sometimes it's not. Well, they get restricted on Instagram or they get restricted on Facebook, for whatever reason. Not to say that we're not doing anything that could be, inappropriate, but we control this from top to bottom, because we're inside of our own app, if that makes sense. So with the community, we'll be able to talk to each other and help each other and share training, share the work that we're doing based on, if you're a track athlete, a football athlete, or a soccer athlete, everybody will be able to share their results, what worked for them. And people are always going to experiment, in which we welcome that once you get to a certain level, and share your exercises or drills that are based on the same concept. Like for instance, we could be doing a single leg RDL. We can go down and just make it a static RDL and just hold, right? So what I've planned with having a 2-pound or 3-pound hand weight in one arm, having the elbow bent at 90 degrees. And now we might add the rebound drop. So you drop it and then you got to catch it and maintain that static position without losing your balance, while your Achilles, calf, hamstring, and glute is on fire.
I would probably fall.
Maybe.
I'm like, I can't do this. I'm going to fall over. No, I'm kidding. I can just feel the pain. I know, because I've seen some of your, the work that you do with your athletes that you put on your Instagram. It's pretty tough. Like even holding certain things, or the slow motion that you have, or just certain like techniques you use with them. I'm like, wow, I didn't know that can be so powerful for an athlete to really be able to work on those, like the pieces to compound at the end for greater results.
Yes. And ultimately, like I said before, where we're going, it's not so much now about sports performance. It's about human performance, because, being able to talk to a physical therapist, a chiropractor that specializes in neurology, talking to neurologists, talking to acupuncturists, and seeing how they deal with their patients. There's a lot of things that go on there that can be applied to athletes. You just have to know how to integrate it, whether it's in a warm-up, a cool down, or making certain drills, the body of work for that particular training session. So now we're doing different drills with the eyes. We're doing, infinity walks. There's a lot you can learn about an individual from an infinity walk.
What's an infinity walk?
So imagine you're outside and maybe you don't have any nice neon green cones, but you just take 2 cups and you separate them by like 5 feet and you just walk around them in a figure 8. But you might put something or have an individual in front of you or off to the left or right holding something, and you have to keep your gaze on that object. So we would start that infinity walk off where you're just looking straight down. Yeah, so you trace your footsteps. And now I'm asking you to keep your eyes on this person at every turn or the object, and they could move. And then we might put a stack of layer on that where we toss you something at every turn. Then you might have to catch it with 2 hands. And then we go down to 1 hand. But you can see the gait. You can see what people start to do with their feet. And we're just walking. So when you see these imbalances, you know that they're doing it on game day when you're running at 100%. So we can work on corrections based on, because the feet, based on how they strike with their feet, how that gait cycle opens up, because everything is connected, the eyes, the feet, the brain. And that's what we're talking about. And it's never discussed in most textbooks here.
It reminds me of connecting with what I'm learning, right? When it comes to concentration and attention.
Exactly.
That's prime. It's a big topic in sports psychology and performance psychology, and how that essentially can enhance your performance. And, going back to your point about not human performance, I think I love that. It's something you hear me talking about, like, yes, athletes, but also like life skills, like the performance of a person and how they can, because it can translate in so many ways given the chance. There's just so many things that you can do to, go to the optimal level to be a human, and all the performances that you apply yourself into. So, yeah.
And that's what we want, just being an optimal human. Yeah. Because I could show you some visual drills. Obviously, it's going to help you in real life. It's going to help you with reading. It's going to help you at home.
Mm-hmm. We might have to, our next talk be about concentration and attention. We haven't gotten to that one.
Yes.
And the last question I have for you. So what is next with this project? What's the next step?
Oh, I've already invested in the app. I'll be looking at some of the tutorials after this. We're getting to where we're starting to collect our content and build our content and upload our content, So I'm right in that middle where I'm still learning the app. We're collecting content, and probably later today we'll or this weekend we'll start uploading, content. But this will be a project. This won't release until you're looking at like October, November. We'll roll it out properly.
It's awesome. Exciting. Well, thank you to Sean for allowing me to be part of your host today in your podcast. Or one day we'll get this correct. What do I say to you at the end of this? I'm going to write it down in a Post-it so I can make sure when I'm interviewing you.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the Sports Mastery Podcast with Deshaun Fauntleroy and Sugey Gomez.
Exactly that.